Ironically, people who reject religiosity tend to assume that the people who they get their information from know what they're talking about, are without error, and have no ulterior motives. Without even realizing it, they take a leap of faith on a daily basis. It's a leap of faith because there's no intuition involved in their approach. It's purely faith-based. In addition to that, through no fault of our own, most people also fail to realize, just as I did myself, that they're the product of social engineering, unaware of where their most cherished beliefs come from, why they believe what they believe, nor why they become so hostile when their beliefs are challenged. You see, the whole world is under a powerful spell. In reality, magic isn't abracadabra. It's psychology, and the main branch of magic is actually marketing. The goal of a skilled magician is to plant an idea in your mind. And who is more suggestible than a subdued child in a tightly regulated classroom environment? Now, I'm not suggesting that educators are purposely misleading their students, and that's the point. They don't need to. Not if the lie has already taken root. The good news is the magician's spell can be broken. The bad news is, in order to break it, we have to put some intellectual distance between ourselves and our preconceptions, and open an honest dialogue with ourselves about our beliefs. To preface this topic, nobody is squeaky clean. This isn't an us versus them scenario. It's an elephant in the room kind of thing. The problem is endemic, because people are too proud to look at themselves in the mirror and identify their shortcomings, and certainly too proud to talk about them. The following questions are so that you can assess yourself. I ask them with no animosity, and don't require an answer. With that said, who among us can honestly say that they take an honest and unbiased approach to research? I want you to seriously reflect on that question. If you do, how has it affected the way that you interact with and process information? If you don't, then why not? Have you ever considered why our go-to assumption is that the other person is wrong? Why is that? What makes me, myself, and I so perfect? Have you ever lowered your guard enough to entertain the possibility that you may be the one who's harboring false beliefs? Again, seriously reflect on this. If yes, then what was the outcome? If not, then why not? Everybody assumes that their viewpoint is the correct viewpoint. And that's because, by and large, people respect the truth a hell of a lot less than their version of it. How can we be sure that our version of the truth aligns with reality? Have you traced your beliefs back to their origins? Do you consider every possible angle before drawing a conclusion? What steps do you take to ensure that your beliefs are based on sound evidence and reasoning, and not personal dogma? Personally, it's in my nature to observe. And when I look around, mostly all I ever see is vanity. And frankly, it's become so tedious and predictable, not just in the secular world, but also within Christianity itself, that it's reached the point where I derive such little pleasure from interacting with people that I actively avoid doing so whenever possible. From this stance, one gains an entirely unique perspective on how people really interact with and process information. I can confidently assert with a very heavy heart that the vast majority of people I observe, yes, the vast majority, have little to no receptivity to any data that contradicts their viewpoint. It even seems like people are actively committed to misunderstanding one another. And that isn't something that I've plucked out of thin air. There is a psychological basis to this assertion, as well as various descriptions of the phenomenon. Firstly, there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's where somebody overestimates their own level of knowledge and understanding. Secondly, there's cognitive dissonance. People experience this when they're presented with a viewpoint that conflicts with their own. And thirdly, there's confirmation bias. That's where somebody who's struggling with cognitive dissonance will side with the viewpoint that reassures them that what they believe is the truth. It isn't a quick or easy process, but this pattern can be broken. Once you learn how to change perspective, you process data differently. But firstly, you have to acknowledge that a change of perspective is essential to personal growth, and that requires humility, admitting that you're a flawed individual, like myself, who doesn't have all the answers. It seems counterintuitive, even self-destructive at first, but it is the most essential step towards learning the fullness of the truth.